This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Tuesday, March 13th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. And first thing I'll just mention is I got a couple of emails today, some people getting really excited about this move right here. And this is a news-related move. The FOMC came out today and said they're going to keep rates where they are, and they were kind of upbeat with the economy and some of the things that are going on. Don't know that I believe it, but all that matters is that they said it, and that gave the market some much needed adrenaline boost, and you see the results here. So I always tell you, you got to be aware of news because it can suddenly change the market. Shouldn't have been any real surprises here. To be honest with you, this is just a big trading range that we really were in since about 10:30 this morning, and we tried to go higher a few times, just couldn't do it until they finally had this short trap down here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And once they had that short trap, it was off to the races, and again, this is all basically news related based on the FOMC, and if there's any reports you need to be aware of out there that happens on a regular basis, the FOMC is one of the most important ones. It usually comes out at 1:15, certain days of the quarter, and but if you don't have a news alert or some kind of news guard or something, get you one, or at least look at each morning, go to one of the websites and look at the news break, basically where they announce the news and what time it comes out, and whether it's there's several sites, some of the Forex sites especially have them, but what it'll tell you is how important that news is, whether it's low priority news, medium, or high. And if it's high priority, you better be aware of it. And I will tell you that the FOMC generally is a very big market mover. And a lot of times what you'll see is just what you saw here. The news comes out around 1:15, 1:30, and the market kind of fluctuates before it decides which way it really wants to go. And sometimes it'll make a huge jump up, and then and that's basically what it did here. It made a huge jump up, and then it came down, and it usually will take back all that and then determine its direction. Very rarely will it just shoot off like that in one direction. But what happened here is it started off to the upside, and it came back and it corrected around in here, and they finally broke this low here. If you put this up here, it makes it a little more obvious what happened. We had this low across here, the support. We broke it. We tested it, tried to go lower twice right here, and you probably should have had your line. There's your last close. We broke above it. We came back. We broke below again, and both times it couldn't close down there. Just went a couple ticks and then reverse. So going long right here was the trade of the day if you were still trading. It's late in the day, I know, and for that reason I didn't take it, and because I knew the news was coming out, I just ignored it. And you know, you like to say, I wish I'd have caught that, which I wish I would have, but I'm not looking back. I know what my goal is every day. I met it, and so no need to be greedy. No need to be taking a chance on a news item that you could be on the wrong side of. But really, there was no surprise here. Here's your trend line. This is the first break of the trend line. You know we're probably going to get a retest with a new high, and boy, did we get a retest here. You got a couple of legs up to a new high, and prices are still trying to go higher in the overnight here. We're way overdone, so I expect we'll probably come back. But this market's looking for a reason to rally, and it wouldn't surprise me if we don't go higher. But let's talk about the rest of the day. And first of all, let me show you this. Let me bring this down a little bit. Anytime you've got a big, nice leg like this in the overnight, measure it, and then once you get your low, your correction is over, look for where that next leg may go to. And let me just show you this. This started right about here, and there's that leg. And the reason I don't come down here because this is in yesterday afternoon. This is where the overnight started. So this is the leg for today. So that's why I measured. There's from the low to the high, and then we had the correction. So I measure that and I drag it over here to the low of the correction, and look at there. Imagine that. to the tick. I mean, that high almost to the tick. Perfect measured leg. Sure, it's not as steep, but it doesn't matter. There's your measured leg, and that's where the correction began. And we had a couple legs. Actually, what we did, here's your high right here. We actually had a high right here, but this, I would probably call that it right here. And then look what happened. We had a one leg back, a two legs up, and then another leg back. So that's a two-legged move back with a two-legged correction in the middle. And that's about from about 120 to about almost 2 o'clock, a little after 2 o'clock. So that's a good hour correction almost, and then the rally started. And really, again, this rally was based off that news. So just remember to look for those legs and measure them. You know, a lot of people don't believe me when I tell you these measured legs will give you your targets most of the time, and they do. And so there's your measured leg. This is just a trading range here that we had this afternoon. You know, it started off down here, then it moved up here, and then that was it this afternoon. And so always put your lines on there. It helps to see this stuff. And the reason I have this one right here is that was the breakout area from right in here. And the odds are this is going to pull back and test that. And look where that little double bottom happened, right at that breakout area. So that tells you something too. And all this pullback was a retest of this breakout. Almost always these breakout areas are going to be retested. And sometimes it takes them a while. Here it took them a while. And then once they were tested, boom, off we go to the races to the upside. So let's talk about our trades and then wrap this day up. I'm going to take this out a little bit so we can see. Here was the regular open right in here, right in this area. This was a double top. The market was coming down. So there was a short here. I didn't mark this one, but there was a short right there. It's kind of iffy because there's not a lot of room there. But if you took that, nothing wrong with that short. I'm going to go ahead and put it on there even though I didn't mark it. I didn't really like that trade. But it was good for a short. There was enough room to scalp out before you got down here. The trend was obviously down at that point. And so nothing wrong with taking that short if you took it. The next real long was right in here. And let me show you why this looked like a good long, because there's your failed break lower, and then you had your break higher. And if you took this right here, this trade worked out, and so there was nothing wrong with it. But the reason I didn't like this one was because of all these overlapping bars right in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Actually, there was 9 bars before this broke higher, and that is a nice bullish looking bar. And you see the trade, as long as you kept your stop below the signal bar, which is this bar right here, that was still a good trade. But the reason I didn't take this next one was because, again, all the overlapping bars. But let me tell you why I liked this one. And you can see that's a one leg up, pull back. There's a first entry short, then another attempt to go higher, and then a second entry short at a very strong support area. So that's a failed second entry short that likely trapped people looking for another leg down. And then so when prices broke higher here, that was where to get long. And you see, and the idea was that prices are probably coming back up here to at least test this double top, but more than likely back up here to test the highs. And you can see that's what's happened. So this was a nice setup, and this made me some pretty good money right here. Then the next trade was this one, and I marked this one green because this one's iffy as well too. There's a lot of overlapping bars, and that made it very difficult. We're up here to this high, so that makes it pretty scary and fairly risky going long right here. But if you took it, it was okay, and only because this is a two-legged pullback to the EMA after a very nice leg up. So the odds are we're probably going to get another leg up like that. And let's just, and if you start this as a low and you measure that as your first leg, move that up, look at there, lo and behold, where does that next leg go to? Right to that area. And especially, this is a good clue that prices may go higher from here. Once you get to that area, prices don't sell off, they just congest. And that's telling you that there's acceptance of the prices up here, prices aren't getting rejected. They're getting accepted up here. And so we're just building some more momentum till it tries to go higher again, and there you go. So that's why I like this trade, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But so we were looking for prices to possibly go up here if they could get through this area right here. So, and again, there's your two legs. There's one leg, then your correction, and again, that's acceptance of prices up here. And the odds are we're going to at least go test this high, so that leaves you a little room to scalp out. And so, and you got your first entry short, then your second entry short right here. So that's a failed entry, failed second entry short again, just like down here. And it's during a two-legged pullback, basically to the EMA after a nice bullish leg up. Anytime you see a leg that bullish coming off a failed break lower, just like I think we talked about one almost very similar yesterday, odds are you may get that next leg. And so it's worth the risk, just knowing that you keep your stop below that signal bar. And even if you waited to here to get in, it was probably okay as long as you kept your stop below that signal bar, and you would have survived and gone higher. But entering here was the better place if you were going to enter, because you got room to get out before you get up here. Where getting in up here, you don't have much room left, and in case it does hold and prices pull back to the trend line, then you're in trouble. And so I marked that one in green for that reason. If you took it, great. If you didn't, you didn't necessarily do the wrong thing, because this was an iffy trade. Sometimes it pays to take the extra risk, but a lot of times it will burn you. So, but remember, we did have this first leg, and we were looking for a leg similar. So we were looking for prices to come up into here, and or actually it was up to here, I believe. And but anyway, we were looking for prices to go higher based on that first measured leg. And then if you measured this leg, you were looking for prices to come up into this area anyway, and possibly up to here from the original leg way out here. So hopefully that's not getting too confusing. But after that, there really weren't any good entries until right here. And again, this is a one leg back correction, second leg back. So this is a two-legged pullback to the EMA. And our target was up here somewhere. So going along right here, again, it's very similar to this trade and very similar to this setup down here. It's just a repeat pattern. A lot of overlapping bars and so forth make it scary. But once you get to that, remember the EMA just kind of acts like a moving trend line. And look where the majority of the prices at this point, they're all above the EMA. So there's a good chance we could go higher. So that's another clue. A lot of times people get confused with that. They think it's where prices at the moment, just like right here. Even though prices are below the EMA, where have the majority of the bars been? They've been above all day long. So we're looking for longs until prices the majority of the bars start getting below. And even way down here, the majority of the bars are on both sides. So that's flat. That's a trading range. So you're still not looking for shorts. The trend is up, and here's our trend line. And I drew this trend line off those first two swings right there after this big correction. And lo and behold, that's where we got this bounce right here. And this was a second entry long. These are a couple of legs back here. This got kind of iffy with this big bar here. But remember, the best entries are always going to be off the trend line. And so this was another good entry. That's a nice reversal bar going along there. It got kind of scary because it backed up a little bit. But that's not uncommon before prices turned and went on higher. So there's been no trend line break till right here. And because we did break it here, there's a chance we're going to get, here's your first leg, there's your correction. There's a chance we're going to get a second leg down. And if you measure this leg right here, here's our measured legs again. Measure that leg, and you measure that one. They're exact same, perfect measured legs. And there's your little double move in the middle. Actually, if you put there's leg one, your pull back, and then there's actually, I don't think I quite got that one right. And then there's your pull back, and then there's leg two. It did go one tick higher, but that's close enough. And so there's your two legs that way, and then your leg down to match this leg. And Then prices also broke below this, all these matching lows. So, and the reason I took this trade was because it was a second entry long. I thought this was actually the second leg down. But even if you didn't think that, there's leg one, your correction, and I was looking for leg two that I thought had failed. But it's a second entry long with the trend, and this was the first real break of the trend line, and I don't know what's wrong with my mouse here. But anyway, this was a second entry long. Again, it worked. And this was during the news, so if you didn't take any trades, this all happened fairly quickly. So if you didn't take any trades in here, that's okay, because it is during the FOMC news, and it's better just to stay out. And by this time, it was really late in the day, so I don't know how many of you might have caught this, but if you were still trading, let me show you this. Your lines were probably right here, but when you got that close, you should have moved it down. And also remember, that was your retest of this breakout area over here, and there's those highs, and prices came down. We tested it once, we tried to go higher, we came back and tested it twice. So that's a second entry long, and if you didn't go long there, you definitely should have gone long here, because this is your two legs back, and now we're looking for a retest. And boy, did we get a retest. This thing just kept going and going and going, and even in the overnight it's still going. So it was a great entry if you were still around to take it. Again, we were mostly looking for longs today. The trend was up all day. There was no reason you couldn't go short off these failed breaks higher here once we knew we were in a trading range. But it's never wise to counter trend trade when you haven't had a break of a trend line. So I didn't mark any of those. And if you took them, and they worked great, but they weren't necessarily wrong. But I don't teach those, because we're looking to enter, follow the rules and enter with the key entry points at the key entry times. And so that's pretty much it for today. Hopefully you made some good money today. It was fairly, even through all this, you see all this overlap. Whenever you see all these small bars that are overlapping, but they just keep going higher and higher, that's indicative of a strong trend, even though it doesn't look like it. So if you got long anywhere in here and just held on, you still would have made money. But they're not great entry points, especially because of these highs that were across here. And it's risky because prices may break up here and turn and go instantly straight down. But the trend was strong. The trend was strong today, and so as long as you entered to the long side, you should have been okay if you gave yourself enough room. And generally, all you needed was to get below your signal bar, and if you got below your signal bar, you were okay. And except for this trade right here. And again, I explained to you why you shouldn't have taken that one. It's always best to wait in the ES for a second entry, because the two legs usually follow through. And there's one leg pulled back, and there was your second leg, so that makes this a second entry long. And I like that trade just simply because it was a second entry long at the trend line. So, and you see it worked. It only worked for that, but then we got the true second leg down, and then it was off to the races. So, but I'm gonna wrap it up. We're into 20 minutes. I apologize for the small technical piece here, and I may try to go back and clip that out. Depends on how hard it is to do. But if not, thanks for bearing with me, and we'll see you tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.